Welcome back into Foxwalk Primitive. We're still here at the first day of Blade Show 2015, and I'm standing at a booth that has gained a lot of popularity in the bushcraft community. Their slogan is "They're the future of primitive," and that kind of piques our interest here at Foxwalk Primitive. I'm talking about Habilis Bushtools, and I'm speaking with Steven Staten, who is the lead designer of the company, and we're just going to get a rundown of some of these unique designs. So Steven, what are we looking at right here with the SRT?
Yeah, the SRT is really intended to be a one-tool option. It takes the place of a small hand axe. It gives you the ability to choke up so that you can do your finer work like you would with your traditional bushcraft knife. We did design several features into it, like the anvil, which allows you to use a hammer stick to chop up or split larger wood. We also did what we call a dog bone pommel, which allows you to drive the tip in, like if you're busting out fat wood or trying to take a piece of chaga off of a tree. We do our integrated fire rod scraper, which when used in a reverse grip, it allows the sparks to be directed into your tinder bundle. So you get a hotter coal in where you're trying to ignite your fire.
The trend for a unique style blade is starting to grow, and I was saying to Steven here that I think it's because when you step outside the box of what we would call the norm of knife design, we're getting designs that are just highly functional. And everything he just told you is just a testament to that belief. So I would really like to see that trend continue.
The bush tool was actually the first knife I ever designed. And there again, I really just felt like I got it right with it. It's hard for me to get away from it because it has all of the features that make this knife great, but in a compact package that's easy to have on you all the time.
Right.
We, of course, didn't have the dog bone pommel. I came out with that later, but this knife really doesn't need that because it wasn't intended to replace a big axe. But we do leave this back edge slightly sharpened, and that's so that you can scrape out bowls or spoons.
When you see it on the internet, you see it in pictures, it seems like it's huge. It seems like it's a massive knife, but it's really not. I can see this knife being real comfortable, almost as EDC, but definitely on the trail. This would be a marvelous trail companion, in my opinion. Let's talk about the Trapper. I hear this one being talked about an awful lot on the internet.
Right. Actually, it's more of probably our most traditional pattern other than the Nesmut. It's one of those where we wanted to offer people a chance to use one of our knives without going to something that was out of their comfort zone, and it really was intended to be a transition tool where they kind of go, it's a really great made knife, I'm willing to try these new techniques.
Going back to this pseudo Scandi, being it's a sharp edge, it'll get the job done. Myself, I'm not a huge fan of straight Scandi grinds, but a pseudo Scandi is a different ballpark in my opinion. And of course I'm talking about ease of maintenance and the fact to me, I can get a pseudo Scandi sharper than a straight Scandi.
After you've sharpened this with your secondary bevel so many times, you've changed your dynamics.
Yeah.
But you can put this back on a flat rock and sharpen it just like a traditional Scandi, put your secondary edge back on, and you can basically use this knife until it's gone.
Yeah.
And the same is true with the bush tools, where with a lot of knives, the further you go, there's just no way to reclaim that knife. Once it gets to a certain point, it's no longer maintainable.
That's very true. And let's talk about the Nesmut.
That is the granddaddy of outdoor knives.
That
pattern has been around for well over 100 years.
I was saying recently that I've never really been a big fan of the Nesmut design, but I am warming up to it more and more all the time.
It's a great camp knife for processing food, especially vegetables and meats. It's wonderful because it has a continuous curve just like any good chef's knife would. It's got plenty of belly, so you could work with a raw animal or to skin it without being scared of damaging the internal organs. It does give you a lot of that tip control for opening up an animal.
Yeah.
For doing feather sticks, splitting small wood. It's just an all-around good campfire knife. If you pair it up with a tomahawk or a nice small, like they call a boy's axe,
yeah,
it would be rare that in a camp setting you would ever need more. The longer, basically, we wanted to do a lighter version of the Trapper without just doing a thinner steel version of it. So I did a more streamlined handle on it. But there again, it was really intended to be more for women and youth, so it does have a smaller handle profile.
The first thing I think of in the game processing regard when I hold this knife is fish. That is the first thing that came to mind, is processing fish. And I'm betting it would do a marvelous job. We have, the next would be the Feral Hunter I see here.
Yes, the Feral Hunter and the Nomadic Hunter. They are basically the same knife, just with a different length handle. And we do a different wrap on them also, just to add a little more beef to the Feral Hunter. They were intended to be basically spear points. You know, earlier I said don't use one unless it was made for that.
Yeah.
Everything about these was engineered to be a hog hunting spear point. They're long enough to get the penetration behind the shoulder bone to hit the heart. I like to point this out because there's a lot of people out there doing spears now that have never used a spear apparently. But if you notice, mine curves completely in. That's so there's no snag point. Once it goes in, you can take it right back out and reclaim your weapon. And if it comes at you, you've got a second chance. If this is hooked or straight, you're going to lose that knife until that animal dies, or you may lose it forever.
The luck, and what is luck standing for?
That's the light utility camp knife.
Light utility camp knife.
And basically, my wife likes all of my big knives, but being a woman, she has small hands, not as much body strength. So I wanted to make something that had all the utility of my bigger knives, but on a very small platform that would be comfortable for her or children, other women, or even men with small hands. But there again, we did the choke-up choil, and as you said before, we cut it in deep because we want it to be a true safety feature. Generally, people who are using smaller knives or even big knives in a clumsy situation like you might do the SRT, the more locked in you are, the less chance there is for an injury.
That's a definite, that's an everyday carry trail knife for sure, for anybody really, but for smaller hands specifically designed. Thanks a lot. I really enjoyed the talk.
Thank you.
I really like your designs and philosophy, and I look forward to getting some use on some.
Good deal.
So thanks.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Stay with us, we got more.